Felix has had his first summer of really running. That means that there's been a lot of scrapes and tumbles, and we've had a lot of big patterned plasters on the knees this summer. He has scraped his knee weekly, and now there is nothing to see whatsoever. Wow. And I just look at him like, I love it. I'm so pleased, but also I'm covered in scars. 40 years worth of scars. Well, clearly not 40 years worth of scars. 40 minus a couple.
It is true, like Wolverine stuff, isn't it?
It's scary sometimes. You're listening to the Science Baby podcast with me, Layla.
And me, Kim.
We're two nerdy mums who've researched the crap out of parenthood.
Seriously, you do not want to see our internet search histories.
Each episode we chat about the why behind pregnancy, birth and everything that comes after.
Because babies don't come with a manual, but with one born every minute, we think we can figure it out. How are you feeling?
I'm full of cold. I have had quite a disgusting cold this last week.
Oh, friend.
But we've had a really good week, actually, because my delightful husband had a very big birthday. As Felix announced to him on the morning of his birthday, he says, "Daddy, it's a so big birthday."
Very big birthday.
So big birthday, yes. A half century, which I can't... Like, he's having his own journey of, like, what it means to be 50 years old. I'm having a bit of a... Oh my God, I'm married to a 50-year-old. I can't hold the whole thing.
Oh, no.
He's exactly the same, except for slightly more whingy. It was good. So we've had a very busy weekend of celebrating, seeing friends, just late nights. Hastings has a bonfire night in October because, of course, it does.
It's very on brand.
So we've been out and watched bonfires and fireworks and lots of late nights for everybody involved. And yesterday was just like, we were just sitting there stunned, like, oh God, my body, my brain. Doing this with a 2-year-old is when you're 50, and I'm not 50 yet, but he is 50 and I'm not, it's closing. It's no fun at all, but we had a great time. Definitely feeling the effects now.
I hear you, friend. I hear you. So next year is a big year for me. Is this year the big year for you? Or
no,
next
it's
year?
next year. We're the same age, aren't we? Yes.
We are, yeah. This is terrifying because I remember when you and Douglas were planning your joint 70th.
Yes.
And that means that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's not right,
I'm
is it?
Not at all happy about.
No one's happy about that. And because of how time moves, it would now be our joint 90th.
Ooh.
Yeah, gross. Horrendous. So, I'm planning a protracted year-long midlife crisis in which I try to achieve all of my lifetime goals in the next 50 weeks. Actually, less than 40 weeks now we're at for me. So I literally have a spreadsheet.
Oh, Lord alive. Right. And what's your last little treat for yourself? Massive burnout?
Oh, yes. There's no treats planned. No, only torture.
Treat yourself to a lovely little breakdown at the end.
I think I'm having a bi-weekly breakdown at the moment.
I feel you.
Something about being 40 is different to being in your 30s. I feel like I need to have decided what I'm going to be when I grow up.
Oh, don't. No, don't. I'm starting to go down that path.
Okay. I'll take you with me. I'll show you my spreadsheet if you so desire.
Oh, God. It's like meta planning, isn't it? You're planning for planning's sake because it's an emotional crutch.
It's pure procrastination.
Yeah.
It's pure procrastination from actually doing real work.
It's a slippery slope.
And how are you? How has your week been?
We are well. Also have a mystery illness, which it's not producing here. It's just like an inflammatory, fevery response thing.
Oh, disgusting.
It's like a weird virus. I don't know. Horrible thing. So we, Stella and I have been recovering from that, which turned out to be all right, I think. She's had a few confused fits of, oh, what's that in my mouth and my nose? And why does it itch or something? She's having an immune reaction inside her face and she doesn't know why. But thankfully she's not been congested, so she's been able to feed all right and she's been sleeping well.
Yep.
Which has made 99.9999% of the difference.
I think for the whole of this winter season, podcast intros are going to be which mystery illness are we sharing today. Last year it was horrendous. It was literally something different every week for about 3 months. So, but it's good. It builds their immune system.
It does. It does.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And now I didn't. I've turned significantly more than 6 months recently, but Stella has turned 6 months this week.
Hooray!
Which is exciting, which means she continues to put foreign objects in her mouth, but she is now putting some authorised foreign objects in her mouth as well, in the form of sweet potato and broccoli.
Oh gosh. And how has that gone?
Surprisingly well. I mean, it's obviously an unmitigated disaster in terms of cleanliness, stress levels. You know, are you about to swallow or are you about to die? You know, there's that kind of knife edge.
It's just like sustenance, immediate death.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is potentially a slightly sensationalist way to approach weaning. But yeah, no, it's good. She has, in the last couple of days, showed some real progress in terms of which way up the spoon goes.
Oh wow, tremendous.
Which we're really impressed by.
Yes.
And she's really hungry. I think she seems to be really into it.
Okay, that's exciting.
So I'm hoping that's not just an introductory kind of enthusiasm. I'm hoping she's going to be a good eater. But
even if it is, though, you can keep introducing new things and keeping it fresh and new. The 100 foods before they're one.
Oh my lord! I got an email about it from some subscription service. Oh gosh, yeah, lots of pressure.
I saw one and I was on board with it until I reached tilapia. Do you eat tilapia? Is that a thing?
No, I can almost guarantee I don't have the budget for it. What aisle's it in?
I think it's a fish, but I think this is an American-made list, and it's a fish that we just don't have. So yeah, so you can always, if things get dull, you can take her on an adventure to go and find tilapia.
Ooh, a geographical adventure around the world. We are starting in terms of allergens. We've started with egg.
Tremendous.
And the other day she took a piece that I think was a bit big for her. And had a very successful gag reflex, which unfortunately was so successful that she then had a full liquid vom into her dinner.
Oh gosh, lovely.
And then proceeded to eat it all like a puppy.
Oh God!
Eating their own sick. And I wasn't sure what to do because then her hands were really slippery. And I was like, how do I stop this? Do I allow it to happen? It wasn't something I had considered beforehand, and therefore I had no tools to deal with it.
Goodness me. I wouldn't know how to deal with that either. She is hungry, isn't she? My goodness.
Yeah,
Felix has never eaten like that in his entire life, even when completely ravenous.
Is he just very suspicious of it?
He just doesn't give a shit. If there is a distraction in the house, he would rather do that than put anything in his mouth. It's a fight. Every mouthful is a fight. So the fact that she's choosing to eat her own vomit, I would chalk up as a win.
Really? Would we now? Let's see how this evolves, shall we?
How's Jake managing?
Fine.
Okay.
We had an altercation at the beginning about whether letting her pick things up herself was worth the hassle. And I asked Jake straight into his eyeballs, is this about the mess? And he says no, which I'm choosing to believe.
Okay. At some point, we have to take their word for it, even if we secretly, quietly, publicly on a podcast intimate otherwise.
Oh, it's just more fun to take the piss. No, but she actually, I have to say, of all my jostling aside, she has been really good for the last day and a bit, because she's so into getting it into her mouth that she was sort of more distracted by that and less interested in the mess generation.
Yes, that's so exciting.
And I'm sure it's that I've happened to make something that she really likes the taste of.
It's definitely that. It's definitely your culinary skills. 100% that, yeah.
And I will never be able to match this ever again. This will be a 2-day, utopia in a hellscape of weaning.
Well, we've reached the stage now where Felix will eat food at nursery, including fish fingers, at which he has never eaten fish. He won't eat anything that's breaded. And they said he ate all of his fish fingers at nursery. And so now I have to create the hallowed and mysterious school fish fingers.
Is that what you call it now?
School fish finger. I've no idea. I still haven't managed to get him to eat a fish finger, but I'm just going to have to send him to nursery for every single meal of the day because it's the only time he'll eat.
Well, you're paying for it, so you may as well.
I may as bloody well. It's a power thing as well. It's like, that's his way of showing independence from us. Like, I can choose what I want to eat. And I was like, great, but your tummy, who instantly now his tummy has this voice,
Hello, Felix. This is your tummy speaking. I would very much like some fuel inside me.
And that actually sometimes works.
Oh my god, you're such a dork! Oh, you're
And
such
so
a
is my
nerd.
son, because he would like to fill his tender up with coal, aka eat your bloody beans.
Oh my god.
Happy days.
Oh.
I'm very excited that she's eating, though. I'm going to live vicariously through you a pleasant and stress-free weaning journey.
Oh, don't say those words out loud. You've just ruined everything.
Healing.
Healing.
Babies. We are going to talk about how amazing babies are at just healing from all of the scrapes that they get themselves into. So what's your experience been so far?
So we've had an interesting one, aptly, this week, because Stella has continuously poked herself in the face. This has been a very, finger first face grab week.
Oh.
To the extent that I was very nervous about seeing the health visitor because I swear to God she gave herself a black eye. She basically went like that, right into her eye socket. Mm-hmm. And then about an hour later, she genuinely had a bruise under her eye.
Oh, bless
And
her.
I was like, what have I done to this child? And then I saw a little red mark from her nail in the middle of the bruise. And I was like, oh, it was her. She did that to herself.
Did it to herself, yeah.
Because she'd also face planted me directly with her nose. And I was like, oh my God, maybe she's done something to her nose and it's given her a black eye. Anyway, so she has done a lot of scraping of the face this week. Mm-hmm. And she has a particular one on her nose at the moment, which I've been examining closely. So it's been, as I'm sure it is for everyone, there's a lot of nail-related facial trauma.
Mm.
And it's just staggering how quickly those marks disappear, within a day.
Yeah. They don't know what their arms and legs are doing. And as we will discuss, their nails grow at the speed of a Ferrari.
Also, very slow moving Ferrari.
Extremely low.
To be precise. Sorry, I couldn't resist. I'm sorry, I derailed. I derailed your content.
But also, there's a lot of rashes. Have you had any rashes?
So interestingly, not. We've had some little dry skin breakouts.
Yeah,
but no significant rashes yet.
Oh, okay. Well, so yeah, Felix has got quite reasonably problem skin, but then both Doug and I have got problem skin as well. Kind of, we both had eczema as children. Dry skin. So again, Felix has had patches of dry, inflamed, cracked skin that just disappears overnight. So we'll put him to bed and go, oh no, this is terrible. Like, he looks so uncomfortable. Wake up, pristine baby. So bizarre.
Whoa.
I know, so bizarre. But yeah, on the subject of fingernails, I remember Felix was about 5 months old and we took him to the pub, and it was one of the first times that we'd actually gone out with friends to the pub garden. And Doug, through no fault of his own whatsoever, he fumbled him. He was trying to put him onto his shoulder and he slipped and he caught Felix's face with his nail, and he did a little cut on the side of his sort of eye socket. He was beside himself and he said, I'm never going to the pub again. I'm never having a single beer ever again. He's like, my poor baby, I've ripped his delicate skin. Literally that evening, Felix took his own fingernail and went over it in a cross shape. A much bigger scratch, so visible. And if you look back at the Science Baby videos, there was this is the thing. I used it quite a lot, the videos. But the point is, this scratch was gone in 2 days. Completely disappeared. And it was that really awakened me to the idea that, oh my God, I knew that they were healing quickly. But it's gone, and it's gone with no trace of scar, nothing. And I just, literally overnight in many cases, and within a few days, pretty much every, self-inflicted scratch has completely mended itself. So interestingly, Felix now does actually have his first scars.
Wow.
At 2.5 years, he has started to acquire scars, and it's basically from his chickenpox. He had quite a mild case of chickenpox, but a few of the spots, they weren't particularly infected or anything like that, but they were quite large and angry chickenpox spots, and they have left little little scars. And so that's always quite weird to see because, you know, he still has bumps and scrapes and doesn't scar himself, but from the chickenpox, he's got those scars left over.
There does seem to be a fundamental shift that occurs, like between being a baby or even being a fetus and becoming an adult. There seems to be a shift in how your biochemistry works when it comes to like wounds and skin regeneration and stuff like that.
You've looked into this a little bit more than I have because I was just like, wow, you're healing so quickly. It's probably because you're growing. Is that pretty much how it goes?
Yeah, pretty much. I think on a broad sense, the quick healing is because, you know, their bodies basically have one job and it's to grow. So they're kind of in regeneration mode. You know, their metabolism is sky high. They're creating new cells at a rate of a fast Ferrari.
A fast Ferrari, relatively fast Ferrari.
So their metabolism's really high, and they're creating new cells at a rate of knots.
Am I right in thinking you've got health visitors still in your life? Something, you know, they're expecting their body weight to something like double in the first 6 months, is it?
I think it's triple in a year.
And that's crazy because that's like saying that if birth weight equated to height, for example, that would be like us going from 5 foot to 15 feet tall in a year.
It's mad, isn't it? I'm trying my best to triple the weight that I was at when Stella was born, just by sheer dairy milk consumption. But I don't think my metabolism can support that. So it's really quite amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that is some serious weight gain. I mean, obviously it's a smaller objective amount of weight, but even so, that is doing a lot of adding of baby substance, isn't it?
What, you know, the literature says is that the baby's body is in growth mode, and so the proliferation and the replacement of those damaged cells is kind of already in go mode, and so it can happen that much more quickly.
Just to sort of go right back to basics, it's hard because we don't see it happening in front of our eyes except for when they're healing. But babies are doing all of this growing. And ultimately, what does growing mean in terms of creating a human being? It's basically, we're made of cells, we're made of trillions of cells. And to grow, the cells themselves don't typically get bigger, they just get more of them. And so what a baby is doing as it's growing is splitting its cells and then basically hanging on to those cells and fitting them into a new framework that's slightly larger at each iteration. And so because when you're growing, you're basically adding these cells, that is the mechanism by which we heal as well, because a wound is basically a break in some of those tissues. Might be the skin, it might be a membrane somewhere inside the body or something like that. But essentially it's the thing to heal that wound, you have to fill that gap essentially with cells, or use the cells to knit that wound back together. And so healing ultimately comes down to making more cells. And but like you said, that's their main job as babies, is to grow, is to make more cells.
So does that mean that their skin is like turning over more quickly?
Yeah, definitely. So all of our skin turns over. You know, that is basically what all the dust in your house is. Don't want to be gross, but is
protein.
No. An adult slightly younger than us might turn over the whole of their skin, as in like completely renew their skin surface, not as a peeled, you know, malted layer, but in individual cell flakes every month to 2 months.
Oh wow, that's way quicker than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
That's mental.
Whereas a baby turns over their whole skin surface in just 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, so their cells are constantly like new layer, new layer. I mean, we see this in really clearly in animals that hang on to their skin. So obviously you get arthropods and you get things like snakes that grow underneath their skin and then shed an entire layer, whereas we kind of just do a little sprinkle, a glitter of, we don't need that anymore. And the layer underneath is slightly larger. There's a brilliant, is it a dragonfly that wears its old head cases as hats?
Oh, that is the Arubalusions caterpillar, also known as the mad caterpillar.
I knew that you would have that straight in the corner of your mind.
Because I filmed it.
Did you?
A couple of years ago. Yeah, it's wicked.
That's so cool. So it's a caterpillar, is it?
Yeah, in Australia. And it has this amazing hinge system on its head. They basically like wiggle out their skin, and then they've just got this face on their face. It's really creepy.
That's so disgusting.
And then they do some sort of like thrashing around, and then it eventually kind of like hinges upwards and takes all of the other stack with it upwards. It's really
That's
cool.
tremendous. And how many hats can it wear in one sitting, if you like?
Oh, good question. I think it might be 6 or so. It's on the order of like high singles, like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
I think we filmed 4 or 5 at maximum.
That's amazing.
But like, as you can imagine, it kind of like adds to it each time.
And it's a caterpillar of a...
Yeah, rubbish moth. Rubbish looking moth.
It's always the best caterpillars make the shittest moths, don't they? Yeah.
It's a real shame.
Yeah.
Very well camouflaged. Highly successful.
Highly
but
successful.
Rubbish to look at.
So babies have this incredibly fast turnover of cells, and ultimately all of that is driven by a faster metabolic rate, and that basically means the rate at which we get the energy out of the food that we eat. So even though babies, pre 6 months are just on milk, they're really, really efficient at turning over the energy in that milk and getting it to the cells that they need, getting those cells to do exciting cellular stuff and ultimately divide. And that makes them grow all over, but there are certain places that we see the growth, and especially is in their fingernails and toenails, which makes them such deadly talons.
It was so shocking to me to learn for the first time at the age of almost 40 that your fingernails grow significantly faster than your toenails.
Yeah, it's not like you've had your own set of fingernails and toenails your entire life and you didn't have almost 40 years to notice that. Did you find out why?
Well, from what I can tell, it's because your fingernails are basically being used more and like gnawed on more and traumatized more.
Mm.
And so there's more stimulation, there's more stimulus that keeps them regenerating, much more so than your toenails. Because I read a paper that said that it wasn't actually significant statistically, which, as we know as scientists, is very important. But there was some evidence to suggest that nail biters, like myself, I'm afraid to admit, have a higher rate of nail growth.
Oh, interesting.
Because you're basically creating trauma to your nails every day.
It's interesting to think how, because obviously you're creating the trauma at the dead end of the nail, if you like.
Yeah.
That then signals to the nail bed where the nail is actually growing from, under the cuticle, that more needs to be made.
Yeah, I do wonder, because it's not like hair. Like, if you cut your hair, I don't believe it then grows more quickly.
No, it doesn't.
So, but maybe it's like cuticle stimulation.
So a baby's nails, because of that faster growth of their whole body, their nails are growing faster than we do too. And the fingernail will grow about 1/7 of a millimetre every day, which doesn't sound like much, but basically amounts to 1 millimetre every week. But if you look at your tiny baby's fingers, she's probably only got fingernails that are about 4 millimetres long anyway. So that means that she's going to get a completely new nail in a month. Do not fork out for a manicure, because it's going to be a complete waste of money.
It's all right. I put fake nails on Stella anyway.
Oh, nice long.
Yeah, big old long ones.
But I find that incredible. It's like, again, they're renewing their whole skin. You obviously don't see that, but if for whatever reason they might have some trauma to the nail, within a month that's completely gone because they've completely grown it out, which is wild.
Bonkers.
Yeah.
That is proper bonkers. And this is basically all to do with the fact that their whole body, as they grow, is in regeneration mode, like you were saying, for everything else.
Yeah.
So their nails are just kind of a byproduct of the fact that their body is in growth mode. Go, go, go. Make new cells. Yeah,
pretty much. And so the nails is where we can see it, because it's like a thing that's extending out from the body, like this evil talon. But yeah, it's happening all over. And then the other place that we can see it is whenever they get a terrible piece of damage in their pristine baby smooth skin, is that regeneration kicks in and goes, right, let's fix this. But what I find amazing is that how it fixes it not just quickly, but flawlessly.
Yeah, it's so unfair. I have an example, right? So, like, babies basically don't create scars in the same way that we do.
No.
And all I could think about while I was doing my research for this podcast is, in my early 20s, I had a horrendous burn on this arm with an iron. So, like, the iron kind of fell onto it, and it was like black and gungy, and it's delightful. And I just basically spent an entire night up putting like aloe vera gel on it, sacrificing this poor plant.
I love it. Straight from the plant.
Yeah, straight from the plant into the eyeballs. And I was convinced that I had completely wrecked my arm because it was massive and black and just dying. Mm-hmm. And I swear to you, within 3 days, there wasn't a mark.
Wow.
It must have been more superficial than it looked, because that's bonkers, but there is not a single mark on it now.
That's wild.
Whereas a very recent cat scratch is now still fully visible and will never leave my arm.
I swear to God, cats have got something evil in them. Every time you get the tiniest little, even a play scratch, welted up. I mean, it's not really surprising they walk around barefoot in the garden, so...
That's very true. Every time I have an injury related to a cat, my dad brings out like this, like, you know, that the apothecary of weird potions, saying, "Oh, you'll get cat scratch free, but you need to take all of this." It's like, Dad will be right.
I took advantage of that, actually. So, you know, they say that you're not supposed to do anything with cat litter and cat poo while you're pregnant because of some parasite. I have managed to make that last until, well, now and ongoing. It's like, it's not my job. I can't. It's too dangerous. And Mr. Gullible is happy to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, if my husband asks, it's at least 5 years, just to make sure it's out of your system. So, if anyone grasses this up, we'll know who it is.
Yeah. So healing, yes, scratches. It is not fair at all because, you know, Felix has had his first summer of really running. Like he was quite a slow mover, and so he was sort of toddling last summer. Now he can run, he can jump, and he is not stopping. He can ride his bike like a Ferrari, a much faster Ferrari. But that means that there's been a lot of scrapes and tumbles, and we've had a lot of big patterned plasters on the knees this summer. And, you know, it's made worse with having shorts on. He has scraped his knee weekly, and now there is nothing to see whatsoever. Wow. And the same thing goes with bruises. You know, he's fallen off the sofa onto a padded surface, I will say. You know, he's throwing himself on and off surfaces and he's getting bruises on his, like the shins get a lot of bruises. Again, gone within a day. And I just look at him like, I love it. I'm so pleased, but also I'm covered in scars. 40 years worth of scars. Well, clearly not 40 years worth of scars. 40 minus a couple years worth of scars.
It is true, like Wolverine stuff, isn't it?
It's scary sometimes. Yeah. So surely that can't just be regeneration. There's got to be something else to it to heal without scars.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's worth doubling down on like what happens when you injure yourself. Like you've got this, as you say, you've got this breakage in tissue, so skin, you know, sometimes muscle, sometimes bone, you know, blood vessels. All this stuff is like disaster zone, and so your body immediately has to mount a response to that. And so the process of healing from beginning to end is, first off, it's a reaction, so it's a repair, and then it's a regeneration. So it's it's firstly it's patching it up to make sure no, you know, blood can get out, no pathogens can get in, you know, you've dealt with all the pathogens that have got in. It's kind of day one disaster management. And then you've got the slow regeneration, which reestablishes that barrier to as close as original as you can get. And I mean, you can imagine from beginning to end, it's a really complicated dance of involved, complex, varying cellular processes with feedback loops and vastly different types of cells all coming together to create a load of different responses. And it turns out it's a really delicate balance between, you know, really aggressive protective measures. You know, you've got your immune system going and just nuking the entire site to get rid of pathogens. and you've got blood loss being stemmed, you've got all this stuff going on, but then, you know, you need to balance that with regulatory control. You know, you don't want an out of control immune reaction, because of course then that causes its own problems. You don't want to just be throwing new skin at the site, because then you get a weird scar that is no use to anyone and will just reopen because it's got no scaffolding to it. So it's this like weird balance, and I was amazed to read that actually mammals are really crap at that in general. Like if you compare us to, you know, something that can lose a leg and then completely regenerate it a month later, you know, mammals are, the fact that we get scratched by a cat and then there's a permanent scar on our arm, we're rubbish. So there is this kind of like breakdown of this coordination that's going on at the cellular level. And it seems like just because babies are in growth mode, that actually that coordination puts them in a state where they're more skewed towards the less aggressive, more precise kind of knitting back together. There's a number of things that are going on that seem to mean that actually their skin is just really good at healing itself without the drama
Without the
that
drama.
adult skin undergoes.
I think it's easier to put a lot of this into context if you remember that a baby is just an extension of a fetus, right? So there's nothing particularly special that happens the moment a growing fetus is ejected from a mother's body and becomes a growing baby. Like, yes, some more things are switched on, like lungs, but in terms of the growth, they are still in that building phase. And if you think of it like literally building a skyscraper or something like that, there are processes in that principal building that once that sort of body morphology is completely set, then it's almost like the body then switches into maintenance, and like the main response is maintaining that set body, rather than for that early year they're still building. You know, they're still putting the finishing touches on the facade and putting the double glazing in and you know, making sure the solar panels are fitted right. That's kind of how I like to imagine baby growth and repair during that early year, because essentially a lot of those same processes, when I talk about processes, I mean like cellular processes, which are driven by the genes, the instructions, genetic instructions. And this is a fantastic aspect of genetics that we've realised since we've got a better handle on genetic instructions, is that genes aren't just like a book that we follow line by line. They can be switched on and off. And so some genes our body will listen to at certain parts of our life, and some genes our body will listen to at other parts of our life. And there are genes in babies that are switched on that keep them in that primary building mode, in that regeneration mode, in that generation mode, if you like, because it's not regeneration at that point. It is still, in certain places, generation. They're generating new body parts, essentially. Yeah. And those genes, the fact that those genes are active at that time is ultimately what underpins their ability to heal.
I really like your building analogy. I think that works really well, because when you're building a skyscraper, it's really important that at the very least you have the instructions for how to build a skyscraper optimally out. When you're maintaining that skyscraper, those instructions might have been lost or behind a cabinet somewhere. But it's really cool. If you think about collagen, like a really important part of skin and everything in your body that has structure, there are lots of different types of collagen, and some types are more implicated in bad scar formation than others. And it turns out that so there's a particular type of collagen called type 3 collagen that is sort of laid down first as like kind of the temporary elastic scaffolding, and then this kind of thicker, stronger collagen is then laid down on top of it, and that's what gives our tissues, like our skin, the strength. But it's quite stiff, which is useful, but obviously you don't want it too stiff, so that's why it's useful to have this type 3 collagen kind of going on underneath. And it turns out that baby injuries sites have way more type 3 collagen, and that goes some way to explaining why they create scars much less than in adults, because you've got the more elastic fibres being put down, which then, you know, create a much more future-proof elastic scar I guess, if you want to use that word. But it makes sense, because you know, if your body's in building mode, you're going to need to be showing a preference for that type 3 collagen because you're building stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So your body's going to have more of that collagen in it.
It's like you've got to have that scaffolding across the whole of the building while you're still in the building mode, whereas later on you might only sort of ship the scaffolding to the bit that you need to fix, for example, whereas in that early stage you want to have all of those tools widely available to you to continue that building, so that if one of the windows falls out, you're easily able to replace it because all of that scaffolding is still there.
Exactly.
I don't know if I'm stretching this analogy too far, but I like to imagine it.
I'm in for this analogy. I'm in the building.
But and then there are other kinds of cells within the skin called fibroblasts that sort of, I think, as far as I understand, work alongside the collagen to sort of lay the blueprint for how that skin is laid back down, which is why the tissue is able to heal with the same structure. We all have fibroblasts, but babies have more of them and they work more effectively, which is why when healing from a wound, the skin structure seems more seamless, is repaired in a more seamless way because there's fibroblasts in combination with the elastic form of collagen are combining to make something that is more, skin-like, just because the resources are still there.
Yeah, and it's mental that you've got this skin being laid down per instructions, but these types of cell are also being coordinated and interacting with a load of different cells from the immune system as well.
It's crazy. In our building analogy, I like to think of the immune system as the security guards.
Yeah.
So you have security guards on a building site because you don't want to make sure anybody's running off with your bricks. But they play a slightly different role in babies than they do in adults.
Obviously, there are lots of different types of immune cell. Mm-hmm. And going back to talking about the stages of wound healing, some types of immune cell will go in like the roided up bouncers in vests, and they want to punch something, which is useful if the thing coming in is dangerous. Mm-hmm. Other types of immune cell are there to coordinate and tell those men to not be so angry, because actually that's not helping because you've just destroyed the window by throwing stuff at it. And so it seems like babies have a higher proportion of these more regulatory immune cells. So what we tend to find in babies is that they're going to have a less aggressive immune inflammatory response, and you're going to favour the proliferation of the better types of collagen that are more faithful to the original blueprint, like you said. Mm-hmm. And it makes sense because babies don't want to be in an inflammatory environment. When they're in utero, they certainly don't want to be raising any red flags in terms of immune response, because they don't want their mum's immune system to recognise them and start mounting a response against them. So regulation is the order of the day when it comes to fetuses and very young babies as well. As you say, young babies are just an extension of a fetus. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they're in this regulatory phase of immunity seems to play into this aspect of healing as well.
We haven't got violent bouncers in a building site. You don't need them because there's a different kind of threat, but what you are doing is making sure nobody's kind of sneaking in the middle of the night to steal your steel beams or screws.
And then, of course, as you say, as you rock into this more maintenance phase as you grow older, there must be some sort of selective pressure to lose this functionality. Mm-hmm. As you say, different genes switch on and off and are regulated at different times of life. Yeah. Because it's mad that we lose these abilities, but there must be some reason in terms of what the cells are doing at the cellular level.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, a growth is going to have to slow down, isn't it? Or else we will keep on tripling our body weight every year for our life and we'll become mountain people. So naturally, growth is going to slow down, and that is going to be ultimately driven by epigenetics, by the genes being switched on and off. And the cellular processes that govern how that growth slows down are also going to be toning down that regenerative response, if you like. So one of these genes that's very active during early childhood essentially supercharges the mitochondria inside our cells. Mitochondria, as we know from school, are the powerhouse of the cell.
The powerhouse of the cell.
The mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. Mitochondria give cells energy and give them energy to do cellular things. That might be growing, it might be dividing, or it might just be keeping all of the processes in the cell running. And so by having supercharged mitochondria, you're essentially supercharging a cell to just be like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this really fast. And I'm going to fix that. Oh, there's a wobble in my membrane. I'm going to fix that up. And, I'm going to export all of these chemicals. And so as that gene switches off, essentially the cells slow down, they're less hyperactive, and they sort of set, and not to say that they're like lazy or anything, but they settle down into what is ultimately a more sustainable way for us to be using our energy as grown adults. And the other thing we've not really talked about, and again I think this is probably worth its own entire episode, is stem cells.
Yes, so stem cells are something that we've known for a while are abundant in fetuses and babies.
Mm-hmm. And they're essentially cells that have the potential to become any kind of cell. So they could become a skin cell, they could become a heart muscle cell, they could be a bone marrow cell. And having that potential means that fetuses, babies in that generative phase of life have the ability to create the organs and tissues that they need. Babies naturally have more stem cells, and those start to lose some of their potency as they get older. But one of these genes that makes babies so good at healing is actually controls the stem cells, and not just keeps them potent, but it also makes them sensitive to the environment. And that kind of goes back to your, biting of the nail, and like some messaging between the outside environment and the internal environment that says, okay, now you need to regenerate. And so it might be that when a wound happens, there is some way of signalling to these stem cells that, yes, we're going to need some new blood cells over here and some new skin cells over here, and a bit of new muscle. But using stem cell therapy is something that we can use those cells with practically limitless potential to help heal even later in life.
Yeah, I wonder, because it's such a talked about topic, and it, for a long time was seen as the elixir of youth, wasn't it?
Yeah, but we went to a baby show, and one of the stalls were advertising, harvest and store your baby's cord blood.
Yeah,
because of the stem cells that could then be used to treat their own illness later in life, their own cancers or certain kinds of things. But the list of caveats and applicable therapies was quite complicated.
It's a total, kind of cryogenic freezing type thing, isn't it? It's a harvest now so that science can figure out what to do with it later. Because it's so complex that it was not just a simple answer, is it?
Yeah. So, bottom line, your babies can heal really well naturally. Do all the normal things you would for an injury, but don't be surprised if they wake up the next morning looking like nothing ever happened and gaslighting you.
Yeah, don't be hard on yourself if your child has a split lip, because it will be hurting you more than it hurts them.
Oh, don't get me started on the split lip. When I dropped him 2 Christmases ago.
Oh, but it healed quickly.
It certainly did heal quickly. Within a week, he'd fully grazed his lip and the chin, and it had gone within a week, in time for Christmas, thankfully.
Yeah, it's amazing. They really are like wonder machines, and it's just a shame that we lose that ability with age.
What would we be like if we carried on like that? I think a lot more egotistical than we already are, which probably wouldn't be a good thing. That's it for this week's episode of the Science Baby Podcast.
Let us know your baby's most impressive feats of healing.
Join the chat on Instagram, or find this and every podcast episode at thesciencebaby.com.
See you next time.